Part 1. Good afternoon to you. Part 1, Unit First and Cost of Production. Index, objective, introduction, subject descriptions, what we mean by cost of productions, fixed cost and variable cost, split cost and implicit cost. Concept of a total fixed cost and total variable cost, marginal cost, average fixed cost, and average variable cost, and the difference between explicit cost and implicit cost, concept of a transfer, cost of opportunity cost, selling cost, and the importance of it in a decision making. Another unit cannot afford and to calculate the costs include in a light of its importance, and let us understand some of the key and concepts associated with the supply of any product. In this entire section, we are going to use the term and cost of a production as different from the price of the product, and the term price has an expenditure connotations and may not reflect the actual direct and indirect costs and incurred. Undertaking on the productions of the product, the following sections and to light on the difference between cost and price in a greater detail. The subject description, this sections deals and with the basic concepts and relating to cost, and these include fixed and a variable cost, and implicit and explicit costs, opportunity cost and a marketing cost after we learn other concepts. Receive is a how much would these factor resources receive in this next best option used in the minimum, and this was be the amount and that would have to be paid. and to the factor in order and to induce it to work in the present employment. Say a firm decides and to start an industrial unit and a required half a hectare of a land, and this land could also be used and for cultivations further, either cultivating this land yield a return of rupees 25,000 unto owner, and then that also happens to be the minimum amount that we have to be offered unto the owner and to use him her and to part with the resources land. And but in the case the producer is also the owner of the land, and then he he can use it to start the industrial unit, and he has forgone on the opportunity of renting out selling and the land, the amount that he would have earned by renting out the land and rupees 25,000 is an inbuilt cost and has to be taken into considerations while calculating the cost incurred to arrive at the cost of productions. Fixed cost for a total fixed cost refers to that a component of cost and which does not vary change with the level of output. In other words, it is the cost and that has to be incurred irrespective of the output produced by the firm. And examples of fixed cost includes other expenditures included by the firm on a purchase of land and a buildings, plant, and that a machinery, depreciation, insurance, premiums, and auditors and fees, etc. These do not vary with the level of a output if they remain consist of a fixed. Variable cost, the cost was that a very exchanges and with the level of output is called variable cost, and this cost is with the level of output and a decreases rate of a increase and is not an uniform until output increases and first initially and then at a short pace and gathers moment, momentum again in the last phase, and these are the reasons for this occurrence as the quantity of output produced increase. It might become possible and to purchase raw material in a bulk and get discounts on their purchases, and similarly hiring an additional labor and does not require additional administrative expenditures. Hence the rate of growth in the cost reduce after a certain and level is attained and in the table above, and this happens when units produce range and between 3 and 5 beyond the certain point 2, and in the quantity and produce is a increased the associated variable costs and go on a increasing rapidly. About the nature of the cost, it gets classified as a short or long run cost accordingly, and the demand for a commodity and may rise for all or fall significantly at any point at a certain time, and say the quantity demanded of milk yesterday was a 2000 liters. It may rise to 5,000 today, or even fall to 1,000 liters. And but the same cannot happen with the quantity supplied. It is not possible to change on the quantity and supply instantly, sometimes lasts. You know, in inevitable in order and to change and the quantity supplied it in this respect, and that the difference between short and long run becomes important, and the short run refers to a period during which it is possible for a firm and a change its level of output with the given resources and technology. Let us understand. Let us understand this with the help of an example. Let us say that the producers want to increase the quantity of milk supplied, and they want to increase the quantity of milk, and that they want to bring into the market without within 2 and 3 days. How can this be achieved immediately? What of few months of years? And this is called the long run. The long run refers to time period within which it becomes possible for the producer and to change and the application of almost all factors of production along with the technology in order to increase the production or output in the long run. It becomes possible to change and the applications of all factors of productions to match the prevailing demand, and the terms short run and long run, and then do not refer to any specific period of time, but relate to the time period within which it becomes possible for the manufacturer and to change its output levels by changing and the applications of all the factors of the production. In other words, in the long run, all the costs are variable costs, and when a producer sees rise in quantity and demanding, and expect and the trend to continue into the future. They take steps to increase and their scale of operations, and they buy additional land for extensions, renovate the existing structures, and undertake steps to split cost and inflict cost. In the last sections, we divided the total cost into the total cost and the average cost, and later we also divided the total cost into fixed and variable cost, and this is a one of the ways of classifying uh, class, classifying the total cost. Let us know uh, look at eight another way of classifying or dividing the costs. Total cost equal split costs plus inflict cost. Cost can either be inflict or exploit, and let us understand the differences between the two. The cost undertaken by the firm by making payments for the same are known as the inflict cost. Hence, use the resources or factors of productions in the manufacturing or a production process, and it may be purchased or hired and from factors owners in the input market by paying them and their market price. And since the resources are not owned by the had unto incurred during the production process, and these costs are not predetermined by any period binding and contract or a agreement. If, for instance, upon one a piece of land and decides to start a manufacturing unit on the same, it does not have incur any obvious or explicit additional cost for land. And when it decides to undertake production, expansion, etc., let's us assume and that the market price of the price piece of land is rupees 1 lakh. In this case, the owner does not have to incur any direct and cost or use of land. But if he did not have accesses unto this land, and he would have had to borrow rupees 1 lakh from the bank at a 15% per annum. 6. This would have meant and that he would have had it to incur a cost of rupees 15,000 for us use of the same land, and similarly if his family members work in his farm, he will not have to pay them any salary or wages, and this do not find an expressions in the accounts, but from an economics point of view, it is possible to input the opportunity cost of the resources in order to arrive at the true economic cost, although is it non-cash expenditure. It is a cost that the firm has to be as long as it undertakes tax productions, and there are various accounting methods and that are used to write off an assets depreciations over an expected life, and this atom lower and the reported earnings of the firm while increasing cash flow. Normal profit, the normal profit, the minimum amount that is required in the order on ensure that an economic until an economy continues to functions. Its a present area of activity is known as a normal profit. It is included in a internal or a input cost of the productions, having seen the concepts of a input and a explicit cost. It becomes clear and that accountants and concept of a profit and an economist concept of profit are not the same. We shall see the differences in the following section. From the above example is becomes clear and that the accounting profile profit standard at rupees 1,35,000, while the economic profit is just rupees 50,000. And the reason for the differences in the inclusion of their implicit cost in the calculation of costs, and this reduce and the accounting profile profit by rupees 1,20,000. Questions set. Costs are taken in account. An alternative way of looking at the cost is using the concept of opportunity cost, and it can be understood as follows. And most of the resources of a productions can be put to a variety of uses. Take the example of land. It could be used for cultivations or for constructing buildings or for laying a road, but the said piece of land and can be used only in one actual use at a given point of time. And when one of the options is used or chosen, the other choices or alternatives automatically are rejected. The opportunity cost of a using and land for cultivation is the unconstructed building for the same can be expressed in a more simple way. Let us say a farmer has 2 hectares of land, and he will could use on the same land to grow either rice or sugar cane. Further, let us assume and that any given time he cultivates only one crop. If the cultivated sugarcane, his net revenue rupees 30,000, while rice cultivation would yield rupees 20,000 on the same pieces of land. Naturally, he will prefer to cultivate sugarcane, hence he will not be able to grow rice soon. The It might not always be possible to express opportunity cost it money terms and say you have 3 hearts at your disposal and you could do a variety of things and with those 3 hearts and watch a movie, watch a cricket match on TV, study a book, studying, etc. You can select only one of the options. What one does is rank the mm, options in order of a preference and choose and the options and which is most important to you. Let us say and that your order of a preference is as follows: watching the cricket match and studying movie, reading a book, etc. You have expressed your choice, but for some reason, if you are unable to watch the match, you will spend time studying, and studying is the next best alternative or option, and that you have at your disposal. In other words, watching the cricket match and would entail foregoing the alternative of a study. Hence, the opportunity cost of watching the cricket match is 3 hours of a studies foregone. Of rupees 3,000, the opportunity cost of a working is the one of is one's own business in this class is the rupees 3,000 foregone by not working in some other organization in a such a causes. The current market price reflect the opportunity cost and incurred by the producer. Use and importance of the concept of the opportunity cost. First one, the alternative use of the factors of the production. Tell us the available option and they help us determine the implicit cost of the resource. Second thing is while calculating economic profit, we need to know and the input cost and the concept of opportunity and cost enables one to find the economic profit of an organization. Third one, when the government or a public sector decisions are not be made, the concept of opportunity cost pros and to be very useful. Example, the construction of a dam necessitates the submersions of few producing the commodities include and the terms like the electronic and electrical equipments, medicines, fertilizers, washes, cosmetics, textiles, and ready-made garments, instant foods, TV sets, etc. A large expenditure is incurred on advertising such and a similar products advertisement are displayed in the theaters, hoarding and newspapers, magazines, sign, post, electronic displays, neon displays, etc. In order to influence and the choice and attract the attentions of the consumers. If the advertising efforts are successful, the demand for the goods increases. The purpose of such advertising is to increases the sales of the product. The door-to-door vendors, door-to-door vendors, in order to increase the sales of their product and companies often adopt door-to-door vendors and to promote their goods. Once the goods are produced and the target market is identified using the information collected by such vendors, marketing channels, and links are then draw up in a specific markets for the company or firm on the door or to both vendors provide a useful link and to the others vendors in the market and to customs the preferences made. Explanation explain whether and the statement are a true or false. All the products that manufacturers in the same productions of a subsectors or the main point in the multi-product fund and main output of product, related product, byproduct, joint product, and co-product in the following sections. Let us and try to see the differences in the nature of the products, nature of a related products. When during the manufacturing process, a main product and when the subsidiary or a secondary joint product, this it has been experience are slightly different and from the above mentioned category. All oblique both the products are equally important. For example, one could obtain and means as well for seed and your older regions. Both the products are equally sought after by making variations in the manufacturing process. Butter, ghee, milk, powder, and cheese, etc., can be produced in urban regions. Other demands for this and such products is a quite considerable. When products are manufactured with a slight variation in their production processes and have good earnings potential thanks on to demand in the market. The good are termed as joint products sometimes if the demands for scrap in the market is high. It is scrap attains the status of a byproduct similarly. If market demand for a subsidiary or a secondary product becomes favorable, and then the commodity in a question attains the the status of a joint product. In a brief, the classification or secondary or a subsidiary products is not water and tight and may be different. Product is easy to calculate its cost, but when it engage in the manufactures of multi products, it becomes difficult to access the cost and both of the prime good as well as the subsidiary or products, while the cost of these secondary or co-products cannot be accurately and estimated. Various methods uh, have been devised and actually used by cost accounts, and these are uh, empirically popular methods and that have been adopted, and the main logic that is applied is that up to a certain stage in the production process, the manufacturing cost is just treated as the same one for all the products. Once the nature of the product changes, the costing your in a subsequent stages of the manufacturing are treated or calculated separately. Finally, the cost of each product are estimate separately. In the short, while calculating the cost includes in the manufacturing process and separate treatments have to be devised for co and joint products cost calculations. Let us study and is the process in the following sections. Opportunity of a cost method as studied earlier, and the concept of opportunity and cost is used in these methods of cost estimation, and for the example, cotton and cotton seeds, and which go into the production of animal powder and later produced jointly. How are we so estimate the cost of a productions of each of these commodities in such a case, and the cost of the produce product, say cotton seeds, in this form as an input in the manufacturing of some third commodity is found out in his case. If cotton seeds are used in the production of oil and its seeds fetch a market price of rupees 10 per kilogram, uh, then we will say that the cost of producing cotton seeds is rupees 10 per kilogram. And in other words, if we were to produce oil from cotton seeds, we will have to pay rupees 10% per kilogram and to the producer of cotton seeds, and these seeds are an input in the manufacture of cotton oil. Its input cost in the production of a third commodity is therefore treated at the cost of its production. When this amount is deducted from the total cost incurred, we arrive at the cost of the production of cotton. Unit second, production and cost of production. Objectives, introduction, subject descriptions, production function, and law of variable proportion, a law of returns to sale, words and their meaning, answers answers to questions for self-study, introduction as the demands for a commodity rise rises, and the producers tries to increase this output in order to order to meet the increased demand initially. Initially, and the scale of operations is small. During this stage, and the greatly of a factor input is not a experience much, but as the scale of operations increases and the specificity of same factors. Same factors input begins to show its effect in such cases. It becomes possible to increases other factors and increase output order to produce goods and services. And the raw materials are known as factor input or inputs in brief. The factory inputs that go into the manufacturing process are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurial skills. Initially, most productions is done on a small scale. As the level of output increases and the demand of requirements for these factors inputs and to start rising, it becomes necessary to increase the quantity supplied of these raw materials as the scale of production of the goods and services rise. While some factor inputs are available in plenty, others are relatively scarce and depending upon the requirement and the availability factors. Two minutes. Maximizing the profits earned into mm, earn is the basic aim or objective of manufacturing unit. In order to achieve this, each firm tries to maximize its output while simultaneously controlling or reducing the cost incurrent in the production process as the demand for the product or commodity prices, and the firm has to step up its technology available at the time of decisions making on the impact of changing the proportion of factors inputs or the applications of all factors includes um, is a refer the change in output produced by the firm, and this is also known as the law of returns, in which the relationship between and the inputs and output is played out, and hence and the production function also explains the uh, input output relationship as well as the laws of return, and that is the manifests production function. In order to simplify and understand how the concept of production function is used, let us start with an example. Assume and that our hypothetical farmer owns 2 hectares of land. He decides to cultivate jawar on this price piece of land. Piece of land for this besides land the means other inputs unlike seeds, fertilizers, animal and human labor, and pesticides, water, etc. In a certain fixed proportion, and when all these factors are a component. सारांश बघा, संयंत्र ही एक तांत्रिकदृष्ट्या स्वयंपूर्ण असणारी संस्था आहे. अशा संस्थेला विशिष्ट चौकटीत स्वतःपुरते धोरण राबवण्याचे अधिकार प्राप्त झालेले असतात आणि अशा संस्थेत एका किंवा एकापेक्षा अधिक वस्तूंच्या उत्पादनाशी संबंधित असणाऱ्या सर्व प्रक्रिया पार पाडल्या जातात. कोणत्याही व्यवसाय संस्थेला वित्तीय व्यवस्था, मालकी नियंत्रण, संयोजन, प्रशासन, समन्वय अशा अनेक बाजू असतात. यापैकी एखाद्या विशिष्ट बाजूचाच विचार करून एखादी विशिष्ट व्याख्या केली जाते. म्हणूनच कोणतीही एक व्याख्या परिपूर्ण मांडता येत नाही. उद्योग म्हणजे व्यवसाय संस्थेचा समुच्चय असतो. यामुळेच उद्योग ही संज्ञा व्यवसाय संस्था या संज्ञेपेक्षा अधिक व्यापक असते. व्यवसाय संस्थेचा समुच्चय विचारात घेताना वेगवेगळे निकष वापरले जाऊ शकतात. संयंत्र हा उत्पादनाचा प्रामुख्याने तांत्रिक घटक असतो. व्यवसाय संस्था हा अशा संयंत्राचे संयोजन, नियंत्रण, प्रशासन करणारा घटक असतो. तर उद्योग म्हणजे अशा व्यवसाय संस्थांचा एक समूह किंवा गट असतो. यावरून असे म्हणता येईल की संयंत्र, व्यवसाय संस्था आणि उद्योग हे एकाच उत्पादन व्यवस्थेचे 3 टप्पे आहेत. यात उद्योग हा भाग सर्वात वर असतो, त्याखाली व्यवसाय संस्था येतात आणि सर्वात खाली संयंत्रे असतात. अशा प्रकारे उत्पादन व्यवस्था ही सर्वसामान्यपणे एक त्रिस्तरीय व्यवस्था असते. संयंत्र, व्यवसाय संस्था आणि उद्योग या व्यवसाय अर्थशास्त्रातील महत्वाच्या संकल्पना आहेत. संयंत्र हे तांत्रिक एकक आहे, तर व्यवसाय संस्था हे उत्पादनाचे घटनात्मक संघटनात्मक एकक आहे. यंत्रसामग्री, प्रयोगशाळा, इमारती, गोदामे, वाहतूक साधने यांना एकत्रितपणे संयंत्र असे संबोधले जाते. प्रत्येक व्यवसाय संस्थेचे निदान एक संयंत्र असायला हवे. संयंत्राचे आकारमान लहान मोठे असू शकते व ती भौगोलिकदृष्ट्या विखुरलेली आणि एक वा एकापेक्षा अधिक वस्तूंच्या उत्पादनासाठी वापरली जातात. व्यवसाय संस्था हे संघटनात्मक मूलभूत परिणाम असून उत्पादनाच्या साधनांची व्यवस्थापन व देखरेख, उत्पादित मालाची विक्री, हिशोब संस्था, हिशोब व्यवस्था, संयोजन इत्यादी अनेक विविध कार्य तिला करावी लागतात. लहान मोठ्या व्यवसाय संस्थांचा समुच्चय असे त्याचे स्वरूप आहे. पारिभाषिक शब्द आपण बघतो आणि त्याचा अर्थ: संयंत्र तांत्रिकदृष्ट्या स्वयंपूर्ण असणारे एकक, व्यवसाय संस्था मालकी हक्काचे आणि नियंत्रणाचे एकक, उद्योग एकाच किंवा एकसारख्या वस्तूंचे उत्पादन करणाऱ्या व्यवसाय संस्थाचा समूह अथवा समुच्चय. व्यवसाय संस्थेचे उद्दिष्ट आपण पाहतोय. व्यवसाय संस्था घटक 1 उद्दिष्ट: प्रस्तावित विषय, महत्तम नफा, महत्तम विक्री, किमान उत्पादन खर्च, व्यावसायिक अस्तित्व, आत्मनिर्भरता, व्यावसायिक साम्राज्य, सामाजिक विकास, पारिभाषिक शब्द, शब्दार्थ इत्यादी. स्वयं अध्ययन प्रश्नांची उत्तरे सारांश सरावासाठी स्वाध्याय. उद्दिष्ट काय आहे? व्यवसाय संस्थेच्या उद्दिष्टाचे आकलन होईल आणि व्यवसाय संस्थेच्या उद्दिष्टातील परस्पर पूरकता समजेल. व्यवसाय संस्थेच्या काही उद्दिष्टातील परस्पर विरोध लक्षात येईल. वास्तविक आतापर्यंत आपण उत्पादन व्यवस्थेशी संबंधित असणाऱ्या संयंत्र, व्यवसाय संस्था, उद्योग या संज्ञा समजावून घेतल्या. मागे उल्लेख केल्याप्रमाणे व्यवसाय संस्था ही उत्पादन व्यवस्थेचा केंद्रबिंदू असते. एखाद्या उद्योगाकडून उत्पादन होणाऱ्या वस्तूच्या पुरवठ्याचे ते एक महत्वाचे परिणाम असते. वस्तूच्या उत्पादनाबरोबर वेगवेगळ्या संयंत्राचे नियंत्रण, संयोजन, व्यवस्थापन इत्यादी इतर कार्यही व्यवसाय संस्थेकडून केली जातात. त्या ठिकाणी एक मूलभूत स्वरूपाचा प्रश्न उपस्थित होतो. व्यवसाय end of the lecture now. Yes. थोडा वेळ फिरते.